process before, but today we're going to be talking about the plot pyramid. And pardon me, I'm going to keep running back and forth because of the slides for your entertainment. Okay, could everyone see the screen, by the way? Okay, cool. So today we're going to do a little book talk 101, a summary of the plot pyramid, or the plot diagram, or the plot mountain, or whatever phrases you like here, it's the same thing. Also featuring elements of public speaking and film analysis. All right, so this is our agenda for today. We're going to get into good groups via playing cards. So when I had you walk in, everyone drew a card, right? Everyone has their card. I believe the groups will be aces, kings, tens, queens, and jacks, I believe. Does that sound right? Everyone have one of those cards? Yeah? All right, cool. Objective 1 complete. All right. Then we're going to discuss main focuses, watch a short film, specifically Disney's short film Bale. A group activity, we'll review the group activity that we did, and then we'll discuss the secondary focuses, specifically public speaking. Okay, everybody, any questions so far? Sweet. So the main focus of the information, if everyone could come right down the aisle here and take one of each of these papers, please. Go. I always thought it was handy, you can listen to me while you're grabbing stuff. I always thought it was handy for a teacher to give me some sort of supplement notes or an activity sheet for notes, because sometimes I don't know what I have to write down, I don't know why certain things are important, so I think that paper, pencil, and a little guide helps with the learning process. Alright, so everybody has a sheet of one of each. So right now we're just going to be focusing on the sheet with the plot pyramid on that you see up here. Okay, we're going to focus on that sheet. And again, this is a review for everybody, but hey, sometimes there's minor questions, sometimes we forget. This is a great way to review, okay? So first, we're going to start with, obviously, the plot diagram itself. So exposition, we're going to focus on this little dot coming up soon. We'll discuss if we haven't already known what that is. And the rising action, the climax, the falling action, and the resolution. Okay, so if you guys like to copy that, I'll wait a little bit so you guys can copy all that information down. Again, it's probably already common knowledge, but it's always good to follow along. All right. So whenever everyone's finished copying that, just give me like a thumbs up or like a wave or good. Okay. Everybody all good? All right. So here we go. We're going to start off our lesson, the exposition. Simply, it's an introduction that explains the main characters, characteristics, either what they look like, their emotions, anything else that contributes to a physical or a mental or emotional characteristic, a setting such as a time period, location, where the action's taking place, where the novel is being set. Okay, and point of view, first person, third person limited, third person omniscient, all right? And the goal is to introduce the story to the reader. So if you guys see on your worksheet, I have exposition. Copy whatever, like I'm trying to do this as if it was a college lecture almost. Copy what you think is important. So in my opinion, I think the most important points here are the main characteristics. They look like this, setting, and point of view. It's already common knowledge to us that, yes, we already know the goal is to introduce the story. So I don't really need to write that because that's not important. Write down what is important to you. Okay? When we're all kind of done, just again, give me a little thumbs up, give me a little wave, so I know that we're ready to proceed to the next thing. All right. So I always hated when I was writing, especially when I was younger. I was always a slow writer. So I'm like, no, don't go, don't skip it. You know? Yeah. And I'd like to use the analogy, I believe is the next point coming up. Everybody don't freak out and click this. Yes, I'd like to use the analogy of the teapot. So if I were to compare this plot of a story to a teapot, if I want to have a cup of tea, I'm going to first prep everything. I want to get the flavored tea. I want to get the teapot itself. I want to get the glass I'm going to use. So the exposition is basically the author prepping everything for the reader. Okay, does that make sense? All right, here we go. So what I'm going to focus now on is this little red dot, and some people cover it, some people don't. I like to cover it because it's important. This little red dot is also known as the inciting incident, aka the conflict. In order to project the story into motion, something needs to happen. A conflict, let's say it's a story about two best friends, they get in a fight, that triggers the story to its starting point to begin its increase, its rise. Okay, does that make sense? Yeah, what's up?
So like if we didn't have a conflict, the story would pretty much not be very interesting.
Right, who's gonna pick it up and read it? You know, so something, whether it's a conflict, whether it's a scenario, anything, something needs to happen to gain the audience's interest, or the reader's interest. Okay, does that make sense? And again, anything you want to copy that I say, that's fair game too. Okay, if you're like, that was really helpful, I'm gonna write that down. Go ahead, write it down. Okay, anybody have any questions so far? Nope. All right, I will continue. The rising action, okay? This is the building of the anticipation through the events and actions to reach the climax. So, a conflict just happened right there with the inciting incident. So specifically for our project that you're going to be doing, the book talks, okay, you need to list 3 key events or 3 key factors that contribute to the rising action. So it could be, okay, 2 friends just got in a fight. One friend goes off to his house and he writes about how angrily, that could be a key event. The other friend goes to the supermarket and talks about his other friends, about how little Jeffrey did this to him. That could be another event. Okay? Does that make sense? So for your book talk, you need to talk about 3 key events that lead up to the climax for your book of choice. To add to, again, you can listen to me while you write. To add to that teapot analogy, the exposition, we just prepped the tea, we got all of our resources, we're ready to go. So now the rising action would be, all right, put it all in the teapot, I'm gonna let it sit on the stove until it's nice and hot. Then it starts steaming a little bit, just slight steam coming out. That would be my comparison to the rising action. Everything's building to the steaming point, it's getting hot and warm. All right, does that make sense? Again, give me a little thumbs up when you're ready to move on. I don't want to rush anybody. If anybody has any questions, please feel free to do so. Ask me. What's up?
What'd you hear about the teapot analogy?
Honestly, when I was creating this PowerPoint, I was like, what could be similar to a rising action, falling action? I was like, my partner likes tea. My friends all like tea for some reason. I don't. I like iced tea. But I was like, this is a perfect analogy to use for this comparison. All right, everybody ready to go? If not, give me a little hey. Oh, all right, cool. Are you good? Yeah, good, good. So we just made it through the exposition. We made it through the rising action. And now we're going to do the climax. Now the climax, as you can see, my little teapot, is referring to the most intense point of the story. Like, we just built up, wham, we have the major action, okay? So let's just say those 2 friends had a verbal fight, they went off, they were building up, they were festering, they were telling the parents, they were telling their friends, and then they come back together, and let's say they get into a physical altercation, they get into a fist fight, they do something. That was the boiling point, okay? Just like the teapot analogy, it was the boiling point, it bubbled over, and it exploded. Okay, does that make sense? Do we have any comments, concerns about that? Again, give me a little wave, give me a little thumbs up, thumbs down if you're not ready to continue on. with, okay, and this is also a key note, what I'd like you to do on your exposition diagrams, I want you to circle, highlight, star, or do whatever, I want you to circle the exposition. I would like you to circle the rising action, and I'd like you to circle the conflict, okay? Again, you probably already know this, but if not, this is new information to you. You will be strictly circle the exposition, the rising action, and the climax. Circle those 3 ones only, because you will only talk about those 3 elements for your book talk. Okay, does that make sense? Just those 3 elements. Okay? If you'd like to throw in the inciting incident in your speech, you're more than welcome to. Okay, but only those 3 elements you need. Okay? Again, going back to the rising action, you need to list 3 key events. So you need the exposition, rising action, which is 3 key events that contribute to the climax, and the climax. Okay, does that make sense? Make sure you write that down. That's key information for your presentations. All right. Give me a thumbs up when you're ready to continue. I'm gonna shoot that forward ahead a little bit. So with the falling action, it is the events that occur after the most intense point of the novel, okay? It gives the author the opportunity to tie up any loose ends to the story before rolling into the resolution, okay? If I were to use an analogy, continue the analogy of the teapot, I would use that this is the point where, okay, the tea just bubbled over, it bubbled over, I took it off the stove, I'm gonna let it cool, because I don't wanna scald my mouth right off pouring it right out of this spitter. Okay, does that make sense? So this is everything, we'll let everything cool down, relax, we just had the most craziest point in our novel, and now we're going to relax and defuse the situation slow. Okay? Any questions so far? When all of us are ready, I give you a thumbs up. Awesome. All right, cool. So now we just made it through the exposition, the rising action, the climax, the falling action, now finally the resolution. The resolution is basically the end of the book. We conclude with however our conflict arose. So that means the friends, like I said, going back to the friends model, they just had their huge fight. Let's just say they're sitting in the principal's office right now because of this huge fight. And then finally in the principal's office, they finally say, I'm sorry. Okay, does that make sense? And to conclude our tea analogy, that is when finally, okay, I pour my tea, I'm going to drink the tea. I'm going to enjoy my tea. Okay? Everybody understand? Any questions, comments, concerns? And again, just to reiterate, for your presentations, you're going to be going over the exposition, rising action, 3 key events, and the climax. That is it. Okay? This is extra that you will potentially do later or carry on into other classes, but for the reason being for this, yeah, what's up, buddy?
So we don't have to do the conflict or anything?
You can mention the conflict, you can say, hey, this is what happened, this can occur, to spice it up a little bit. I will go over in the next couple slides coming up, we'll go over how to do the different presentations. So if you think it'll help you to mention the conflict, definitely put it in there. If you want it to be mysterious and you don't want to mention the conflict, then that's a personal preference choice. Okay? Everybody understand? Awesome. So now what we're going to do is, after we just made it through the groups, we got our papers, we did the main focuses, now we're going to watch a short film. Theo, Disney film, I don't know if anyone of you guys has ever seen The Incredibles 2, but before The Incredibles 2 movie, they showed this film. I think it is very good, I think it's very special, so we're going to use the worksheets that say Theo film analysis, okay? And there will be 6 questions there. What I'd like for you guys to do now The aces, please get together at one table. You choose, so aces. Aces, yep, ace, go, 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 go. Can I get the kings at one table? Yeah, pick the table, doesn't matter what table. Kings, pick a table. Tens, pick a table. Queens, pick a table. And who is the lonely jack? Alright, for this purpose, you may choose any group you'd like for the group of 3. I would have Mrs. Kuchartz join the groups, but she's videotaping, unfortunately. Alright, so yeah, you guys get in groups of 3, so I'll bring up the presentation now. Give me 1 second. So all I'm going to have you guys do is analyze the content, complete the worksheet efficiently, answer the questions fully, follow directions set up on, and don't be afraid to communicate with each group. And most importantly, Mr. Z, we will be reviewing this after the film's over. I'll give you guys time to work on the worksheet. If you want to work on it during the film, go for it. But after that, collaboratively, we're going to come together and go over our answers. Okay, sounds good? See, so let's watch the Bayo film. Let's escape. Yeah, what's up?
Can we get the lights?
I would love to. If one of you ladies would like to get the
Danielle,
lights.
did you get the lights